how to change over between services from outdoors to indoors. And with the choir here for the first time, yay! Is complicated, but we will be a well-oiled machine very, very soon, including figuring out how to fit the choir and everybody else who wants to be here in person. Don't you worry, we're figuring it all out. And it will be very helpful if everybody's super careful about COVID in as much of their lives as possible so that we can all sit closer together and all that good stuff. That'll make that all much more possible. So let us, if you are here online, you're going to mostly keep your video and your audio off during the service. I'm sorry, your audio off. You're welcome to keep your video on if you don't mind us all seeing you. We like it, and you can see us and see each other. But we mostly keep our audio off because, you know, that creates all sorts of interference and so on. However, for this brief time, please turn your audio on, and we'll all call out hello to everybody around us, and we'll be able to hear online and in person as well. So hello. Hello. Hello, I hear you. Yes. Good morning, good morning. Hello, everybody. If online attendees, you can see the order of service by following the link that's in the chat. There's lots of announcements there and so on. Folks who are here, you also can see it electronically if you'd like to save paper that way, or that's just how you're comfortable. That QR code is on a table out in the lobby, and it's always there each week with a fresh QR code, or pick up a paper order of service there at the welcome table. Where John and the ushers greeted you. If you're online, you may get a friendly outreach from today's greeter, Adi. You can always chat with her privately using the Zoom chat because she's a co-host, so do ask her whatever questions may be on your mind. And Edie Keating is here to introduce our justice partner for the month.
Hi, our justice partner for the month is Heart and Home Women's Shelter. And we provide a place to sleep 2 times during the year. In September to Hotel de Zinc, and in the spring for 6 weeks to Heart and Home Women's Shelter. And so they've been here for a couple weeks and a few more weeks to go. Heart and Home is a shelter that runs during the cold weather months, so it will be the last church that they stay at, and then they will be working to send all their participants to other shelters, or are also working to send their participants to housing if they have participants who are ready for that. And, you know, so lots of doing applications. And thank you to everyone. The biggest thing we offer is our place to sleep. So people were sleeping here last night, and there was a big pack up this morning because you guys are all here. We're all here now. And we also do our part providing meals. Some come from the community at large, and there's a sign up for that. There are still some meals ready to sign up for. You heard that they were also accepting home-baked muffins, but muffins are all taken for the remaining period. But if you are up to bringing a meal for 8 women, I'll be sending another email out, or, you know, I'm sure there are various ways, like our church website, where you can find the sign-up, the online sign-up, to see what dates are available. And everyone who's in the program, about 8 women, are saying thank you every time I connect with them here and there. And this year, more than normal, or more than other years, I'm getting a big thank you for, it's really beautiful here. So I think somehow our new fresh coat of paint and how beautiful the grounds are really sinking in. So your contributions will be used to help fund the staff who stay with them overnight, and also just, incidentals, juice to go with them in the morning, and it'll be put to good use. So thank you for your support for Heart and Home Women's Shelter.
Thank you. Speaking of the beautification of our space, we have 2 art galleries going at the moment. We have Chris Cassell's photographs online. There's a link from our webpage to see where those are going, to see those as they're going on. And also here in the lobby, we now have wonderful political posters and prints by Glenda Jones. They're really fabulous. So art abounds, and you can come see those, either of those, on a Sunday or any time. And now, let us begin our service. If you have a chalice there with you, please light it along with me. We light this chalice in honor of life's sacred dance, of living and dying. May its flame remind us of those who have passed to us fragments of holiness. May it remind us that we too are participants in the dance. With our centering words each week, we draw on the many sources of our living tradition. Today's words are by Mary Gregolia, and if you were at the service last week, you sang them. And I will sing them as well, because she is a minister and a songwriter, and it seems they should be sung. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. As we follow the sound of the bell into silence, let us feel ourselves arrive here fully. Let's rise in body or spirit and join in singing Now Let Us Sing, which is number 368. You can pick a low part or the high part and sing along, or switch back and forth. Please rise. 368. In your order of service. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your heart. We have a stewardship testimonial by Mary Ann Dewey.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. So nice to see you and be here in person. In 2007, I came here for the first time to the 9:30 service, and I enjoyed it so much I stayed for the 11 a.m. service. And I enjoyed that so much, and I loved the singing of the choir. That very same day, I joined the choir. And I was part of the choir for 5 years, and it just meant the world to me. I felt so welcomed by such a warm, wonderful group of people. And even at our first practice, one of the members at that time brought me a welcome batch of cookies. And I felt such pride being a UUCPA member, especially when we performed Vivaldi's Gloria. And that a couple of weeks later, I decided to become a worship associate for Coming Out Sunday. And I came out as a dancer. And I danced for the entire congregation in this act of profound courage. And just the thunderous support that I received was beyond my wildest dreams. And that support continued for 5 more years. And in the summer of 2011, my father passed away. And 1 month later, my mother passed away. And 1 month later, I lost my job. And 6 months later, I lost my home. It was a really rough year. And I just kept coming to church and felt the sense of solidarity and support, and just the people who were here helped steady me. And then in 2012, I stopped coming to church because I started dancing with a group in Palo Alto. I just needed the movement. I needed the open space of the dance floor. I did miss church, but like the comfort of knowing that wilderness exists, even if I'm not in it, I felt comforted, and I took refuge in knowing that UUCPA was here. For me, a silver lining to the pandemic and to the Sunday dances ending was being able to come back to UUCPA online and being with like-minded people who were witty, compassionate, and so talented, made for good balm. So I have come, I have gone, and I've come back to UUCPA, and I've always felt welcomed. How lucky I am, how grateful I am, how comforted I am to call this place my spiritual home, and all of you my spiritual journey mates. Together, let's keep it going, shall we?
We now turn our thoughts to the joys and sorrows in our lives, the important events that we may wish this community to share. We turn our hearts to receiving both the compassion of others and their stories. I meant to have little cards here, but I do not. So those of you who are online, there are 2 ways for you to share. You can write in the Zoom chat, or excuse me, or send anything you have to joyconcern@uucpa.org, and I will look on my email and get it right now. And if you are here, and I will read all those out so that everybody can hear them and share them. And in between times, if you have something to share and you're here in the room, feel free to come up to the microphone and speak your joy or sorrow, and tell us your name as well. You see what I might have had on my email. Oh, so much. Let us hold for just a moment of silence all that we've heard, the knowledge of a whole world of sorrows and joys as well that are not spoken, that we encounter sometimes unknowing as we move through our lives. So let us feel our compassion expand to meet one another right now. And let's close with a sung blessing. You can remain seated and join in singing the blessing that's in your order of service. Rejoice in love we know and share. Rejoice in this story, most of Miss Rumphius by Barbara Cooney. She wrote the words and made the beautiful illustrations. And thanks to Kevin, show you some of the pictures. If you want to see the rest of the pictures and read the rest of the story that I'm leaving out, then believe me, you can find it in your local library. The Lupin Lady lives in a small house overlooking the sea. In between the rocks around her house grow purple and blue and rose-colored flowers. The Lupin Lady is little and old, but she has not always been that way. I know. She is my great aunt, and she told me so. Once upon a time, she was a little girl named Alice who lived in a city by the sea. Many years ago, her grandfather had come to America on a large sailing ship. Now he worked in the shop at the bottom of the house making figureheads for the prows of ships, for Alice's grandfather was an artist. He painted pictures, too, of sailing ships and places across the sea. When he was very busy, Alice helped him put in the skies. In the evening, Alice sat on her grandfather's knee and listened to his stories of faraway places. When he had finished, Alice would say, "When I grow up, I too will go to faraway places. And when I grow old, I too will live beside the sea." "That is all very well, little Alice," said her grandfather, "but there is a third thing you must do." "What is that?" asked Alice. "You must do something to make the world more beautiful," said her grandfather. "All right," said Alice, but she did not know what that could be. In the meantime, Alice got up and washed her face and ate porridge for breakfast. She went to school and came home and did her homework, and pretty soon she was grown up. Then my great aunt Alice set out to do the 3 things she had told her grandfather she was going to do. She left home and went to live in another city far from the sea and the salt air. There she worked in a library. You see her in the library? There she is. Some of the books told her about faraway places. People called her Miss Rumphius now. Sometimes she went to the conservatory in the middle of the park. When she stepped inside on a wintry day, the warm, moist air wrapped itself around her and the sweet smell of jasmine filled her nose. "This is almost like a tropical isle," said Miss Rumphius, "but not quite." So Miss Rumphius went to a real tropical island where people kept cockatoos and monkeys as pets. She walked on long beaches, picking up beautiful shells. She became friends with the Bapa Raja, the king of a fishing village. My great aunt, Miss Alice Rumphius, climbed tall mountains where the snow never melted. She went through jungles and across deserts. She saw lions playing and kangaroos jumping. And everywhere she made friends she would never forget. Finally, she came to the land of the lotus eaters, and there, getting off a camel, she hurt her back. "Ah, what a foolish thing to do," said Miss Rumphius. "Well, I have certainly seen faraway places. Maybe it is time to find my place by the sea." And it was. And she did. From the porch of her new house, Miss Rumphius watched the sun come up. She watched it cross the heavens and sparkle on the water. And she saw it set in glory in the evening. She started a little garden among the rocks that surrounded her house, and she planted a few flower seeds in the stony ground. Miss Rumphius was almost perfectly happy. But there is still one more thing I have to do, she said. I have to do something to make the world more beautiful. But what? The world already is pretty nice, she thought, looking out over the ocean. The next spring, Miss Rumphius was not very well. Her back was bothering her again, and she had to stay in bed most of the time. The flowers she had planted the summer before had come up and bloomed in spite of the stony ground. She could see them from her bedroom window, blue and purple and rose-colored. "Lupins," said Miss Rumphius with satisfaction. "I have always loved lupins the best. I wish I could plant more seeds this summer so that I could have still more flowers next year." But she was not able to. After a hard winter, spring came. Miss Rumphius was feeling much better. Now she could take walks again. One afternoon, she started to go up and over the hill where she had not been in a long time. "I don't believe my eyes," she cried when she got to the top, for there on the other side of the hill was a large patch of blue and purple and rose-colored lupins. "It was the wind," she cried as she knelt in delight. "It was the wind that brought the seeds from my garden here. And the birds must have helped." Then Miss Rumphius had a wonderful idea. She hurried home and got out her seed catalogs. She sent off to the very best seed house for 5 bushels of lupin seed. All that summer, Miss Rumphius, her pockets full of seeds, wandered over fields and headlands, sowing lupins. She scattered seeds along the highways and down the country lanes. She flung handfuls of them around the schoolhouse and behind the church. And she tossed them into hollows and along stone walls. Her back didn't hurt her anymore at all. Now some people called her that crazy old lady. The next spring, there were lupins everywhere. Fields and hillsides were covered with blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. They bloomed along the highways and down the lanes. Bright patches lay around the schoolhouse and back of the church. Down in the hollows and along the stone walls grew the beautiful flowers. Miss Rumphius had done the third, the most difficult thing of all. My great-aunt Alice, Miss Rumphius, is very old now. Her hair is very white. Every year there are more and more lupins. Now they call her the Lupin Lady. Sometimes my friends stand with me outside her gate, curious to see the old lady who planted the fields of lupins. When she invites us in, they come slowly. They think she is the oldest woman in the world. Often she tells us stories of faraway places. When I grow up, I tell her, I too will go to faraway places and come home to live by the sea. That is all very well, little Alice, says my aunt, but there is a third thing you must do. What is that? I ask. You must do something to make the world more beautiful. All right, I say, but I do not know yet what that can be. You know, it's the stuff of fear in churches or the stuff of jokes and cartoons. The idea that immediately after we die, we go before a judge. You know, St. Peter is standing there before the gates, and if we don't answer correctly, we don't get in, we get sent to another place. Or God is pictured as being on this great throne or as a sort of judge in a courtroom, judging what we did in this life. Again, with reward or punishment waiting, or, you know, this is multicultural. In the Egyptian land of the dead, you go before Osiris, and there's a feather on one side of a scale and your heart on the other, and if it's weighed down with any heavy deeds, you know, not good for you. And so I love this twist on the idea of what we are called to answer for when we die. That comes from the Talmud, the collection of Jewish law and lore and advice and stories. The Talmud says, among its many, many volumes of wisdom, all of us will be called to account in the next life for when we had a feast laid before us and did not eat. I love the idea that that's what God will say to us. Look what I created. Look at this light. Listen to those birds. Look at the lupins and the faces of all these people. Look at this feast I laid before you. Did you enjoy it? Did you partake? I came round to this thought when I was set a problem for this sermon, a problem that many, many of us deal with on our own, including me. Dave Jewett was talking to me, struggling with death, the idea that death awaits. And even if you've had a long life and are in good health, at some point you realize it's coming closer. And this was happening for Dave. We had a good conversation. I'm sharing this with his permission, of course. And I said, you know, your son-in-law, David Chen, he bid on the sermon at You Choose the Sermon topic in the auction. Shall I preach on this? And David and Dave conferred and said, sure, this is the sermon. Preach on this conversation. Preach on where it went. What Dave said to me, so here it is. What Dave said to me, he quoted something that he probably guessed correctly that I would recognize. He said, "What do you do when you're tired of living but scared of dying?" It's from the song Old Man River, beautiful old song. I get weary and sick of trying. I'm tired of living but scared of dying. I think a lot of what we do when we think about the fact that death is inevitable, especially when it seems imminent, we don't think about it at all. We don't let it into our minds. We don't let it into our feelings. Our whole body pushes away the fact that we all die. But, you know, that's not much of an answer. That's not a way to engage with the things that are before us. Inevitabilities such as we're going to die. So what else do we do when we're scared? What could we be doing instead? And even for some people, obviously, they're afraid of the afterlife, but even those who are not particularly afraid that they're going to be judged, who think, as Dave thinks, as I think, you know, I think probably this is just it. I just kind of turn off one day. It could be scary. So I thought about the people I've known who don't seem to be afraid. I've seen them. People dear to me, people in this congregation, who come to death with a sense of peace, a sense of joy even in what life has been for them, and they're ready. They're not scared. They're ready to go. I wanted to learn from that. And I thought, I think maybe they've been living the Talmud answer. Because it's like what God says in that little parable. What God says is, life is a party. If you don't like parties, say a meal of all your favorite things to eat around a table with all your favorite people. Maybe you do like a party with all your favorite music and everybody's dancing. Or there's a buffet spread with chocolate desserts. Now, when you have an experience like that in life, when you are at your favorite kind of gathering, doing your favorite things, and it's time for you to go, are you scared? Not scared. We're sad, maybe. Oh, I wish I could eat just one more thing. It all looks delicious, but I am full. Or I'm just tired and I gotta go. I wish I could stay longer. Sometimes we might have regrets. We might say, there was something I really wanted to do. When I came in, I saw that person over there and I really want to talk to them. So we try to do whatever we really, really want to do before it's time to leave the party. It's time to leave the feast. And then we go. It's okay. Now, of course, we always have the thought that there will be other parties. It's hard to leave the last one. It is. But it's not scary. It's just a little sad. So I'm thinking in this regard of Miss Rumphius and this lesson that the book wants to teach us. I mean, for Miss Rumphius, life is a feast. So, and people have pointed out, first of all, as Grace said here in the service, I thought the same thing. She said in the Zoom chat. Before I learned about invasive species, that story was more fun. Yeah, okay. Spreading lupins everywhere, even the native species, maybe not such a good idea. I've been trying to cultivate our native lupins in my garden. It's not so easy. I wish I could just sow, other kind of lupins, but there's other ways to make things beautiful. But I've just been thinking about the fact also that, that she had a pretty good life. Okay, she's a librarian, so I don't know where she gets the money. Maybe her grandfather left it to her or whatever, to travel and then to buy a nice little house. Life has been pretty good for her. And even when she goes abroad and she goes to these places, she sees the good side. She sees camels and happy people. She doesn't see, cholera and shanty towns. But maybe she does. Maybe she does. Because something that's in the story is that wherever she goes, she makes friends. And I thought, well, if we're called upon to make the world more beautiful, Miss Rumphius thought that she still hadn't done that until she got back to her cottage by the sea and started planting flowers. But she had. She had been sowing seeds of love and friendship wherever she went. And that's something also that we can do. We can meet people with love, with friendship, with compassion, or I think this is another word for love, really, with kindness. Kindness is love we show to people we might not even know. That we meet somebody, they're having a bad day, maybe they're being impatient, and we respond with kindness. We've made the world a little more beautiful with that love. This is what I hear from people who are approaching death but seem fine, seem to be at peace. They speak of love. They say their lives have been full of love. They love and they know themselves to be loved. Which is another way of saying they've spent their lives making the world a more beautiful place. So you might plant, native species, a lovely way to make the world more beautiful, or you might reduce unnecessary deaths, like from poverty and cholera, or any number of other ways. So other thing that I thought of when I was thinking about this question of how do we meet the end of our days is another one of those cartoons. You know, if it's not St. Peter at the gates or somebody on a desert island, one of the favorite situations for a single frame comic is the tombstone. What's on the tombstone? So I saw a cartoon recently that was a tombstone, and on it was a Venn diagram. So I knew right away, needed to share it with my family. We have kind of a thing about Venn diagrams. I don't know how that came to be. So Venn diagrams are those overlapping circles, you know. So there's two circles on this tombstone. Circle here labeled eternity before. Circle here labeled eternity after. And in the middle, John Venn, 1838 to 1923. 1924. No, 1834 to 1923. His actual dates, the inventor of the Venn diagram. And that little overlapping bit of the eternities. That's where we are. That's what we get. There's eternity before we're born and eternity after we die, and in between we get what feels like a very small piece. But I had a new perspective on this because of a practice I've been doing for the last few months. Before the year started, I decided that I was going to draw a leaf every day through the year. And because I can get paralyzed by decisions, I said, I'm just going to work my way through the Audubon Field Guide to Western Trees. And whichever one comes next each day, I'm going to find a picture. If I don't actually have easy access to that tree and its leaves, I will find a picture and draw a leaf of that tree that day. Moving along. Well, it sounds like drawing practice, and it's very good for my drawing ability, no question. It's really helping, but it's really a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual practice. And the reason is because I can't draw a leaf without really looking at it. And without really, I can't look at it without really thinking about its life. You know, they all look like they're the same on one tree, on one twig at first, and then it quickly becomes apparent that they're not. It looks like they're all green, but it quickly becomes clear that there are lots of different colors of green and other colors mixed in as well. You can see kind of the life story of any given leaf. This is just a leaf, right? Not even the organism. One tiny piece of a big organism, big and old organism. But I can see like, I can see an insect nibbled there. Or this leaf is a little shriveled. It's like it didn't quite get its water or nutrients as it was unfolding, and the other ones around it did. And it's just fascinating. Everything is there as I look closely. And I looked under a microscope, a picture that somebody else had taken, a microscopic leaf, and you can just see all the cells. Again, they seem at first uniform, but they're not uniform. All these cells that make up a leaf and all the things they do. And talk about a sliver of eternity. These leaves, they are so complex, they're so beautiful. They have everything, they do everything that they need to do. They have these incredible, in the course of days or weeks, they grow these incredible systems to respire and excrete and do all the things that leaves need to do for the tree. And they're just one of millions, possibly, on this one organism, of which there are millions. It's amazing. And they live so short a time. Most of them live for just weeks or months, some for several years. Like, we think we have this much eternity, what the piece of eternity that a leaf has is less than a blink of an eye. Now, I don't know, I don't imagine that leaves have feelings about any of this. But if they did, I think it would be joy. Like they're living, they're doing everything, and they build all this incredible complexity, and then they die. They just fall off the tree, or they shrivel, or get eaten by a bug, or attacked by a fungus, and their time is done. In between all this beauty and mastery and complexity. So I find that helpful. Like I have this joy in the beauty of their contemplation, but I also imagine there's a joy just in being beautiful. So we, John Venn and the others who are just this little overlapping piece of eternity, do we feel it? That to me is that response to, okay, I have to leave the feast soon. What am I going to do? And I don't mean acquiring stuff or even having more experiences or anything. Because something else you'd learn, if like Ms. Rumphy, as you travel around the world, or if you just look at studies, as this is shown over and over again by research, is that the vast majority of the world, which is vastly more poor than any of us here in this room right now, are just as happy. It's not the stuff that makes you happy. It's not even the experiences of going to all these amazing places, although that's great. That's all great to be able to do. Are they there at the feast? Are they creating the beauty of love and connection with other people and all the things we do to make the world more beautiful? I want to share one thing from Mary Gregorio, because I learned, as I was thinking about this and talking to Dave about this, I learned about her experience of writing that song, I Know This Rose Will Open. I know my fear will burn away. She's a minister. She's a Unitarian Universalist minister, and she says she wrote this song as an assignment in a class she was doing in seminary on death and dying. They needed to write a eulogy, their own eulogy. Good exercise. And she said, well, I'm a songwriter. I'm going to write a song. And she got all ready, she said. She got her tea and her notebook and her proper chair and her way of thinking and everything, went out into the garden to prepare her creative process. And nothing came. The assignment loomed. She had nothing. So she gathered up all her stuff, all the things that she used to help her creative process get going, and got her empty teacup and her chair and her notebook and went back into the house, and as she crossed the threshold, she said, the song came to her, complete, the whole round. Just sang its way into her head. And what she had to say about that, I thought, was good for us here. What I take from the experience, she says, is the great responsiveness of the universe / spirit / deep and creative self. When we allow ourselves to be present, I would say, to be at the feast, to listen, to sing along, but not to assume we can control its scope or view. And isn't that one of the things that frightens us about death? We can't control it. We don't get to decide. And we can't, just like she couldn't control when creativity would emerge. She says, I know this rose is the answer to my invitation to the deep self. The way I hear it, the way I feel it, I am the rose. Opening is in my nature, even when it comes time to let go of this body practice. I love that way of saying, even when it comes time to die, I know this rose will open. And although I may feel afraid of the changes, afraid of the unknown I can't control, afraid of allowing the ego to follow the calling of something deeper, I know those fears will burn away in the fire of transformation, this very physical practice of loving and living and letting go. And as my fear burns away, I know, I trust that the wings of my heart, my soul, will unfurl their wings, my wings. She says, yes, I know this rose will open. I am the rose. We are all the rose opening. May we all trust in the opening. You know, we don't get to lay the feast. We can add to it. We just have to trust that it is all opening. We are all opening. And so that's what we've got in dealing with this inevitable fact that death is coming for us all, each of us in our time, to enjoy life, what is given to us, like a great feast, like a wonderful party that we have to leave soon. To be sad about having to leave it, but not afraid. It's not scary to come to the end of something good. And to add to it, to make the world more beautiful, especially by creating love wherever we go. May it be so for all of us. And now we are invited each month to make the world more beautiful by supporting an organization that's doing that every day. Today we can support Heart and Home. There's a QR code in your order of service there on the table if you missed it, if you didn't take an order of service with you or you don't have it with you electronically. Also, if you're here in person and you just like to give cash or a check, there's a box out there that you can give to. I think there's still a box out there we can give to. If you're online, follow the link in your order of service. I think I put the wrong one. I don't know if somebody's changed that for me. That it should say UUCPA Justice. Don't give to the Sunday offering, give to the Justice offering, and that will give to Heart and Home, which is what we want to do. Please be as generous as you can. Thank you. Now, will you please rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing, O Life That Maketh All Things New. It's number 12 in the hymnal. You can link to the words in your order of service from the Zoom chat. And let's feel the new life and joy in these words. I want to extinguish our chalice with these words that were shared with me just this morning by a friend. Coming up, right, choir? Coming up. Yeah, coming up. He said, beauty is always alongside. Sometimes I notice. So let this light be the light by which we see beauty, light in our eyes, the light we carry into the world, so that beauty may not only walk alongside us, but be seen by us and noticed by us wherever we go. stay after the benediction for our conversation time. If you are online, the main room, decline to go into a breakout room if you want to stay and discuss the service topic with people. I'll join you in a bit after I've had time to greet the folks that are here at the building. Everyone, now if you are online, please unmute yourself and turn on your video. And will all of us here rise in body or spirit? Put out your hands, hold hands with somebody if there are people next to you who are comfortable holding hands. If not, you can put out your heart to them like this, and we'll say together the words of our benediction. We can hear you online too. Go out into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Rejoice in beauty. Speak love with